Hello and welcome, Tino here, and I've been asked for a video with all my templates from the weakest to the strongest, but all of them useful on certain situations. So let's start. My first template is going to be the garrison. With garrison I mean if you click this button and then this one, you can change the garrison that goes to your occupied territories. And I always use horses because they have nice suppression, no companies because they provide no suppression except the military police, but I don't have because I need to research military police. And super important, click this button that will give the units the worst weapons, and you are going to be keep your best weapons for the front lines. Now let's talk about militia. Militia are perfect for guarding remote areas since they are usually 3 or 4 battalions. 3 or 4 battalions make one brigade, and 3 or 4 brigades make one full division. And since they are very small, they are perfect for guarding remote areas since they will live with the local supplies and will suffer no attrition. You should always provide one cheap anti-air company. Why? Because in remote areas the system or you usually do not use anti-air, and if they do, if they deploy some bombers, they are going to destroy completely your unit. So you can do the same to them, and with this you're going to be more than protected. Our next template is the training division. I'm using only infantry, no companies, just the maintenance company. If you train this division, when you take this from level 2 to level 3, you're going to be losing 5% of the military weapons. If you use a maintenance, you're going to be using just one. If you use artillery, you're going to any of this type of artillery, this one, and this one, you're going to be losing 60% of the artillery because of rounding problems. And if you use battalions, you're going to be losing about 10% of the equipment. So it's a lot. And the strategy is to train this template. If you don't have the maintenance company, train a template like this in the training production line, and then you're going to be deploying them. And after you deploy, you're going to be training them to level 3 using this button. That if they have the maintenance company, they will lose very little equipment. And now our basic line infantry, I usually use this icon, and it's the same company. I made a duplicate of the other template and just add the companies. You're going to be adding the engineers that provide entrenchment, that is more defense when defending, but also give bonus in speed, and when attacking, soft artillery gives a little bit of punch. It's important because the infantry have no punch. Anti-air to protect against enemy planes. It's important that all your units have at least some degree of anti-air that will cut by half just from being there the enemy attack. And recon company, they are quite cheap, and this is the line infantry. The system works like this. When you train the training infantry and they reach level 3, you just start converting them to the line infantry, and they will need just 3 more days of training, so you're going to be wasting very little resources on your artillery, and you're going to be saving a lot of money. And now let's start with the real infantry. The other template is just to protect lines where you do not need to resist, like a port or something like that, only for occupation purposes. The infantry, it depends if you have resources or if you have manpower. This is much better than the line infantry because the artillery provide soft attack. This in infantry provide hit points and the artillery provide soft attack. So it's very balanced, but if you have little manpower and you have resources, you should use 2 of them instead of 1. This is much more powerful, much more expensive too, but if you have the resources and you can afford, this is much better. But usually this is quite balanced for almost every country. And the next template is the elite infantry. For that one you need 2 artillery, and you're going to change the icon to the tower. For example, you duplicate and you should add here a medium tank. If you don't have the DLC, the step pack, use a heavy tank, but I'm using a reinforced medium tank. That way the tank will provide the armor. This tank should be very cheap, only a heavy machine gun, but a lot of armor. You can produce this tank very cheaply, and this will increment the power of this unit by 3, because you're going to be having the armor bonus that makes the unit take half damage and deals 50% more damage. So it is a very good idea to add battalions if you have the resources here, and these battalions are going to be 3 times more effective than a standard battalion added to a standard regular infantry. So you're maximizing the power. Also the artillery here is 3 times more powerful than if you add to a standard division. And that way, make sure to give them the best weapons, since the weapons are going to be multiplied by the activity, the efficiency of artillery and the armor. So you're going to be having bonus multiplied by bonus multiplied by bonus. So this is a super strong infantry division. I use this for holding my most required locations. And also, if you need, you can use an anti-tank here. Remember to use always anti-tank battalions and never anti-tank companies. Battalions are much better, just 50% more effective, but are 3 times more powerful. So not a good idea to use a company. And they also use just 1 point in combat with, so it's a win-win. So this works like this. Let's say that you have 2 elite infantry units, and you need some extra anti-tank there in the area, so you change the template to the anti-tank. Since both templates are super similar, you're going to be receiving the anti-tank material in just 1-2 days, and they are going to be losing minimal XP because they are almost identical. And that way you can instantly stop on its tracks a new offensive of tanks in a remote area. In just 1-2 days the weapons are there, the anti-tank, and they are going to be stopping the enemy. Now let's go to the elite paratroopers. The elite paratroopers are brigades. Usually they have just 3 battalions, and this means that they have a very small combat width, and they can use a lot of companies that they will not increase the combat width. So they have a combat width of 6 in this case, but they have a lot of punch because they have anti-tank, anti-air, soft attack, also the recon tanks that are light and provide a lot of breakthrough if you design them with a lot of breakthrough, and anti-air and the rockets, and this means that they are going to be doing a lot of damage, 75, and they are just 3 combat width. So let's say that you are attacking from a province that you have 2 sides, so maybe a combat width of 130 divided by 6 means that you can put 21 of these divisions and attack a single or some units in a port, and you're going to be obliterate any port. You just drop them behind the lines, not on the seaside. For example, let's see, in France, you can drop them let's say here and here. Usually the enemy will put defenses here, defenses here, defenses here, defenses here, but to protect this port they will put here, and you should drop them here and here, and you're going to be destroying that port with 21 divisions. Of course, they are not going to have armor, but they have breakthrough from the light tanks. Let's go to the armor. I leave the combat width to you. You can use combat width of 42 or 84, both are okay. About 40 something or 80 something. If you use, of course, the big divisions, you're going to be needing just 2 for each spearhead. And here you should put the best of the best. And we are talking about the flamer tank. Is critical because this is going to be a fixed benefit in a lot of terrains. Engineering company 4 speed, scouts 4 speed. Sorry, not that kind of scouts. You are going to be using the light tanks scout, and you're going to put all the fuel here and also all the fuel tanks here. Each one of the fuel will give you 100 more fuel capacity. It's kind of an exploit, and you shouldn't use many weapons because the weapons are going to be penalized, but not the fuel, at least with the current patch. And also the rockets help. It's just pure damage, especially if the company is not so big, and also soft attack. And now the first part is going to be the infantry. You should choose what kind of terrain you are going to be fighting on. Let's examine in each of the options. You have first, standard infantry is good all around. It's kind of have the best bonuses on all kind of terrains. If you're going to be fighting on the mountains, let's say in the Balkans, if you're playing Italy, Yugoslavia, Greece, Turkey, Mountaineers are great because you are going to be having bonuses on hills and mountains, and the bonuses are not so good for the infantry itself. They are going to be a multiplier of the tank companies that they provide. So, for example, if you use trucks, in the statistics they may look good, but the reality is that they have awful penalties, so they are going to be destroying the power of your tanks. So this one is all only good for plains and cities. In plains they work wonders. They move very fast and give bonuses in plains, but only in plains. Also, you have horses. Horses is something in between the infantry and the trucks. They are not so fast as the trucks, but they are faster in rough terrain like jungles, especially forests, are much faster than trucks. But they do not have as many bonus as the infantry. So basically, if you are going to be fighting in the Balkans, you should like, or trying to cross from Italy to France, you should use the mountaineers here, mountaineers for Greece and Turkey. You don't have enough money for quick tanks. If you are going to be playing Poland against Germany, I like horses because they perform very well. In forest, they move 3 times faster than the trucks in forest. And if you're going against the Soviet Union early on, well, the trucks work very well. If you avoid the swamps and the forest, the Soviet Union has plenty of planes. And of course, if you are in 41, you should use instead the mechanized infantry because it's much better. The mechanized infantry has more hit points, 30 hit points instead of 25, and they have bonus in every kind of terrain. But since they also have armor, that means that they take less damage. Also, it's important to notice that the mountaineers, they have only 20, and the paratroopers only 20 hit points, and the standard infantry has 25. So standard infantry is better in every other terrain than hills and mountains compared to the mountaineers. And also you have marines if you want to plan to cross rivers and not only landings. Marines work very well on swamps and rivers. After you define the infantry, you should provide the armor. The armor is one single battalion with a lot of armor. The only purpose of this battalion is to provide armor. You can use a heavy tank, a tank destroyer, or a medium tank. If you are going to use light tank, you can use a medium tank. But if you are going to use medium tank as your main battle tanks, you cannot use a medium tank. So a medium tank destroyer is a good idea, or even a heavy tanks. We did some video about customizing heavy tanks to provide them more speed. That will be used for multiplayer or late war designs. But usually a tank destroyer is perfect because you are going to be doing the role of armor piercing. So this battalion is going to be giving the piercing and the armor. Remember that the armor is calculated as an average between all the battalions and the battalion with the biggest armor. So it's much more effective to add just one battalion with a lot of armor than many expensive with some armor battalions. The same happens with piercing. It's much better to add just one battalion with a lot of piercing than many battalions with regular piercing. Also, the anti-tank destroyer is much better than adding a tank destroyer, like using the tanks like this, because the tank destroyer has specialized bonus that give you more punch than this thing here. But if you are going to use a medium tanks and light tanks, you have no other option than to use the anti-tank truck. So you have the infantry, you have the tank destroyer, the armor and the tank destroyer. Now you need the anti-air. If the company is size 20, one anti-air with trucks is okay. If you are going to use a size 40, it's much better that you use 2 companies because you are going to call a lot of attention of enemy close air support, and this way you are going to be shredding them to pieces. And the final element are your main battle tanks. Those tanks should provide only breakthrough and soft attack at the cheapest cost possible. Of course, all the divisions, all the templates should match all the designs should match the same speed, the speed of the infantry. If you are using horses, design all your tanks to move at 6.4. If you are using mountaineers, use them at 4 kilometers. If you use this kind of trucks from the 40, use them at 8 kilometers per hour. If you are in early war, you should use a light tank with a close support gun. Let me show you where it is, because they are the best damage. Well, I don't have the model here, but design your light tanks with the close support gun. If you are using medium tanks, use instead the howitzer, if you can, the improved version later, and the howitzer is the best weapon possible for main battle tank because they deal a lot of recruit, and the tanks will provide a lot of soft attack, and the sheer amount of tanks will provide the breakthrough. So the role of the main battle tanks is to provide just soft attack and breakthrough, many of them, and make the units combat with about 84 or 44 if you are using 42 if you are using 20 size. And no doubt you should make this unit elite so they get the best weapon possible. You need all the best to break the enemy lines, and I made a lot of templates and designed with long explanation about this, so I leave this video here. It's an overview of all my templates. I have made specific videos from them all, and I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, please leave a comment, a like, a hello, and thanks for being there, and see you in the next one. If you have any question, I will be more than happy to help you. See you, bye bye.